Hello guys, this is menderelcapBIG, and today I'm going to show you how to make a self-powering charcoal smelter. This is a design made purely by me, and it is a charcoal smelter. So essentially, you put wood in the top of it, and then it just makes charcoal with that wood by smelting it, but you don't have to put any fuel in it, because whenever it gets a charcoal, it puts it right back into the system. So you get infinite charcoal by putting logs in it. And it's great if you have a tree farm or you just like to mine a lot of trees and you need a lot of coal. But this thing just generates coal for you without actually using fuel to smelt it. It has 2 furnaces, and it's really nice to build in your worlds because it only takes about 10 minutes to build, but it's really small. Now this design over here is a slightly more reliable design because it less relies on than only a single item going in the dropper, but you can build either design, whichever one you feel most comfortable with. You should probably build this farm all in one chunk, because sometimes if you have a chunk border along some of the redstone dust, what can happen is if you get far enough away, you'll unload some of the chunks, but not all of them. So like half of it will be loaded and half of it won't. And that's really bad, because then like some of the redstone might try to operate, but like some of the other redstone is missing. So you want to have it in a one chunk area. And I have this resource pack I downloaded from Bedrock Tweaks. It's really great. You can only get that on PC and mobile. However, you can't get it on Xbox. But there are many other ways of finding chunk borders. There are many YouTube videos out there explaining how to do it. And one I watched that you might like is Silent Whispers, which explains many ways to find chunk borders. Anyway, enough about chunk borders. Let's get on building the farm. Okay guys, let's get started building the tutorial. So, we're going to start by putting 2 furnaces in the center. These are going to be the smelting furnaces. We want an input chest in there. This is where the wood goes. And then, over here, we're going to have our output chest right there. And we're going to put 2 hoppers into it. Okay, next, we need to feed the charcoal back into the furnaces. So we do that by putting 2 hoppers here, and then we need our droppers. So we're gonna get 2 droppers facing up. These are just temporary blocks, and these are gonna face into the droppers. So essentially, it's gonna come out of the furnaces and go back into the droppers. But we're gonna have some hopper locking mechanism. So if these droppers are full, then it goes back into this chest. Okay, the next step is we need to make it so these droppers push back up items into these hoppers. So this is pretty simple. All we have to do is take a comparator output from each of the droppers, which goes into a repeater so we can make the signal high again. And then we simply put some wool around here and put some redstone dust on top. It doesn't have to be wool, it can be any block. And use these repeaters to feed it into this block, which will power these droppers. Now, as you can see, if we put any item in these droppers, it will immediately spit out because this comparator will activate this thing, this repeater, which will go into the dropper and put it back into the hopper. However, if you're uncomfortable with this design, because if you put multiple items in it, only one comes out, and then it gets stuck forever. That shouldn't happen with the furnace because it will go at a really slow pace, but if you're having problems, you might want to switch to the other design. This one is the other design that activates a clock to repeatedly activate this dropper. So I'm going to show you how to make that design also. To do that, we're going to simply not have these sides here, and then we're going to take an output here with a comparator on subtract. It's important to on subtract because that's what makes the clock. So then we're going to put some blocks there and a repeater here, which will slow it down enough for the droppers to spit out the items. So we can take the output here, and whenever it gets a signal here, the comparator will start making a clock on itself, which is going to activate this dropper, because we're going to put a block there and a repeater facing into that dropper. Now we can do the same thing on the other side. So we could just take a redstone line. If you want to save materials, you could just make a redstone line over here, like this. Not horse, and we could feed it with a repeater and on 2 ticks, so it's equal. That way, this would save materials, but it looks kind of ugly. So I prefer to do it the other way. The other way is just make it symmetrical on both sides. To do that, we just need to make this comparator on this side. And we can take an output here, put it into a clock by using a repeater, back over there, and one tick repeater right here. Perfect. So that's done with all the redstone. Now it's time to make it look a little better and test it out. Before I make this look good, we should probably ensure that it's actually functional. To do that, we need to give it one charcoal in each of the furnaces. I know it's supposed to make its own charcoal, but it needs to have some charcoal to start with to fuel the first charcoal, but then it will power itself forever and you'll never need to ever put any more fuel into it. So, now we have charcoal in here and we can test it out by simply putting in a stack of logs here, or any amount of logs. As you can see, these logs start loading into the furnaces, which are going to go out in this hopper and go into this dropper, which go back in the hopper and go back in the thing, into the dispenser, as you just saw there. It just worked. So if we look back in this furnace, it has a charcoal in there, which is great because at first it had 0, now it's 2. And we put one in the beginning, but it got smelted over here. So now it looks like it's working. Great, now we can move on to making it look better. Obviously, you can make this thing look better in any way you like. I'm going to show you one design for it, but I'm going to tell you some tips about it. So, first thing, we need to put some glowstone on top of here, or any other transparent block, but it cannot be a solid block, because this redstone dust would conduct into this hopper and it would block it, and that would not be good. Also, we need to open this chest. This is where the output of the coal is, by the way, the charcoal, and it will only start filling up once this has a stack of charcoal in it. So I am going to make it look better. I'm going to cover up these furnaces and stuff, and I'm going to cover up this redstone dust. You can make it look better any way you like. You just have to not interfere with any of the redstone. And I don't like how you can see through these corners, so I'm going to change this to barrels. Do whatever you want. Ta-da! Barrels. Okay, great. And we can make a little roof on this. Like so. There you go. But yeah, you want to make sure not to drop items into these hoppers, or else they might try to jam the furnaces, which is not very good. So, I have a little roof here, and looks pretty good. Obviously, we can build some walls off here, but yeah, this is our system, all complete. Now I'm going to show you how it works. I've been touching on how this works all throughout the video, but I just want to put it all in one place so you guys can know exactly this thing inside and out, and you can modify it even if you want to. So, first of all, you put wood in this center top chest at top. These hoppers pull down the wood and push it into these furnaces. The furnaces start filling up with wood, and they start smelting. Well, obviously you need some fuel to start out first, but then it'll keep making its own fuel. The way it does that is whenever a charcoal comes out, it'll come out of this slot right here. And since the hoppers are under it, it will just push it into this dropper over here. Now, droppers, when they're facing up, actually move items into containers above them. So what's going to happen here is where this dropper is going to push up into this hopper. The way it does that is this comparator measures that there's an item in this dropper. So then it starts this little redstone clock over here. This redstone clock is a basic subtraction comparator clock. It's kind of hard to explain how it works, but what it does is it sees there's an item in here, and it keeps activating this dropper until the item comes out of it. Now, once the item comes out of it, it'll go into this hopper over here, which will push into this furnace back over here. And since it's in the side of the furnace, it will actually go into the bottom fuel slot. Now, the way that it actually starts going in the chest is this thing has to be full of charcoal. Since it's an auto-renewing, self-powering farm, it has to fill up with charcoal in here before any of it actually starts going in the chest. But don't lose any charcoal. It will always be here if you want to get it. So, Once this fills up with charcoal, you can simulate it like that, then you will see that any extra charcoal is going to start jamming up into this hopper like that, and then we'll get a comparator output from the hopper here, which will power this repeater, which will power the redstone dust, which will power the torch, which turns off. When hoppers are activated, they don't pull any items. So since this hopper is not activated anymore, it will start pulling the items from this hopper whenever it can. And since hoppers pull before they push, this, when it's unlocked, is always going to pull the items out of this hopper. It's never going to go in the dropper. But when this is locked, it will never go into this chest, because it will always be going into this furnace. Okay guys, I hope you've enjoyed watching my video, and you build it in your worlds, and get lots of charcoal by just mining trees. It's a really nice farm, and I hope you enjoy using it. So, thank you guys for watching, and make sure to subscribe and do all that YouTube stuff. And this is actually my first video in Minecraft, so sorry if it's not the best quality, but I hope the farm works well for you. So, anyway, bye guys.